Welcome to Snoody Podcast.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Snoody Lounge Podcast, and today I got a special guest. Been trying to get this to work for a minute, so you know I got to punch my man's in right. Main man Karlos Mancilla, big Yankees fan from Florida, but I'm gonna let him get into the expertise of that, and also he a memory whiz, and I'm definitely gonna let him tell you the whole story about that. But I want to welcome Karlos to the show. How you doing, man?
Good, you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. So, you know, when I start off these interviews, I always go with a current event question. And, you know, just before I came on this, I just so happened to have my camera, not my phone right. So I want to go to a game yesterday. I know I just punched you in and said you're a Yankees fan, but you guys played the Braves yesterday. What is your reaction to the game yesterday?
How do I put this kindly or even remotely politely? This team is fucking terrible. Team is terrible. I mean, I see a lot of reaction go against Aaron Boone, and yes, he has his faults, but I really think it all starts with the way the roster has been built. If you look at the last Yankee championship team in 2009, they had 5 left-handed or switch hitters. You'd be hard-pressed to find a night where they have more than 3 in 2023. And they just haven't surrounded them with enough talent. Instead of, going out and signing a marquee free agent in left field, we're stuck with a rotating cast of Billy McKinney and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. No disrespect to either of those two. I think they've done fine in their roles, but it could just be a lot better. And, I mean, pitching has been solid. We somehow have the best bullpen in baseball last I checked, but just because the offense can't score is where the real problems lie.
That sounds like a great assessment, but my last question before I get into the actual story of Karlos is, I know you're a big Steelers fan, and I know you may have big expectations as Gabe is walking up right now, but y'all the only 2 Steelers fans in the group chat. But what is your expectations of the Steelers this upcoming season?
I do know. I think I have a lot more confidence in them this season than I did last year. Last year was a bit more of a kind of feel it out kind of year, figure out some things on offense. First year with the new quarterback in the form of Kenny Pickett, who after a bit of a rough start kind of had me pleasantly surprised down the stretch.
Just real quick, he threw more interceptions than touchdowns last year.
That is a correct statistic. However, the vast majority of those interceptions happened in the early portion of the season, and I believe he only had 1 interception over the season's final 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, a bunch of comeback drives too. So that's my only way of trolling Gabe. That's my trolling joke, because I know he in the back. Like, yeah. Let's get to the story of Karlos. Let's get to the story of Karlos Mancilla. So you're from Florida, correct?
Sort of correct. I mean, I lived in Florida the vast majority of my life, save for the first 2 years of my life, and there's a really weird story behind that.
Let's hear it.
So my parents lived in New York for a long time, and my mom's parents were here in Florida where they retired. And just before my mom was set to give birth to my twin brother and I.
Twin brother? I wait. Okay.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Come down here to Florida to visit them. However, my mom's about 6 months pregnant at the time, so they're like, you know what, one last hurrah, it's Memorial Day weekend. All of a sudden one day, I believe it was the day before Memorial Day, my mom's water breaks. 26 weeks, I believe it was, or 25. They were able to hold my brother for another week until he had to come out. Then the next goal was to hold me as long as possible.
Right.
So then after about 2 weeks, they noticed that my heart rate and breathing was dropping. So, we got to get him out or he's going to be in some serious trouble. They get me out, and I'm 28 weeks. So we spent about 3... My brother's in the NICU for months, neonatal intensive care. I'm there for about a month myself, but those 2 weeks were a huge difference for me. And after about those months being there, they let us go home. So we go back to New York for a couple of months, or a couple of years.
Right.
And my mom realized she wanted to be closer to her parents. The rest of her family was starting to move down here too. So she was like, let's just follow them.
So what part of Florida exactly did you guys move to?
We moved to Apopka, Florida, which is small, not a small city, but medium-sized city, about 45 minutes outside Orlando.
So how was it for you when you moved down to Florida and just growing up as a young kid in Florida? How was it for you growing up?
People talk about Southern hospitality. That's semi-lax here. I mean, I don't say it completely doesn't exist. I'm sure you guys can attest to this being down here. But overall, some kind people, especially in a smaller city. Overall, it's been a decent experience. Got sports teams here and stuff too.
But I know like your sports teams are Yankees and Steelers, so it's not like
And the Knicks.
Yeah, and who else?
The Knicks.
And then don't worry, I'm gonna definitely get into those. We're definitely gonna get into the Knicks.
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Feel like yesterday for me though. But how
Super Bowl, we get it.
all right, I'm gonna let you win the troll off. You win that one. Touche. But when did you exactly start getting into sports when you was a young kid?
So I was about 6 years old in the summer of 2010. And mind you, prior to this, I do have memories of watching sporting events with my dad. I just honestly was a little kid and couldn't care less. But my dad put the World Cup on that summer in 2010. And just me watching that as a young kid, watching how the competition and how the world was captivated by this event was something that I was really drawn towards. Like, hey, this is kind of fun, to attach yourself to a team and all that. Then the NFL followed that fall, and slowly but surely the NBA and Major League Baseball. Fairly recently, I've become a fan of tennis. So
Nice. Real quick, who's your favorite tennis player right now?
Tennis player right now, I'd say Daniil Medvedev. Big, powerful serve. Yeah.
So let's get to middle school. Like you're on to middle school, and you're still in middle school in Florida, correct?
Yes.
So
spent my entire schooling life here in Florida.
Okay, so how were you academically as a kid? Like, what type of academic student you was growing up? Were you like all A's or a couple B's?
Take a step back here first. Elementary school, I was all over the honor roll, and much to the chagrin of my brother, he felt like he had to live up to my reputation, and I really feel bad for him because he had a lot of pressure there and failed to meet it. And my parents were hard on him for that a little bit, but he came out better because of it. But once I got to middle school, there was a little bit more going on. So my grades slipped, but I wasn't a horrible student by any means. I wasn't a model student either, but
when I was in middle school, I was like I'd say I made A's, B's, kind of a decent student. But were you really into like ESPN at this moment, or where were you watching your sports content at this time?
At the time, it was because I really didn't use my phone all that much. It was just mostly terrestrial TV. You'd see ESPN, FS1, whatever was on at the time. But I mostly didn't really care for all that. I really only cared for watching the events live, like live sporting events. I just want to watch the game and maybe get an assessment or an analysis after the game, but I don't need you to break the same game down for me, regurgitate the same facts to me.
So in high school, you go through high school, you graduate, and then now you're looking at colleges. So was there ever a time that you knew Full Sail was going to be on your mind, or did you have other colleges you thought you maybe would go to?
So it's interesting you asked that, because in order to answer that again, I have to circle back to my early childhood, because once I saw that World Cup and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I want to be involved in sports in some way. And to preface this, I have cerebral palsy. I'm sure you're going to circle around to this eventually, making mobility a bit of a challenge for me. So quickly, I came to my 7 or 8 year old senses and said, I'm not going to be an athlete. It's just not reasonable to expect. But there's no way I'm not going to try and have a career in sports. So I remember one day I was just watching a game. I don't even remember what game it was or who was calling the game. And I'm like, I want in. Funnily enough, later that summer, my parents gave me a desktop computer, my brother and I, to share. It doesn't go over well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, true.
And it was an old computer that was a hand-me-down from my mom. And that computer happened to come with a bunch of old CD disc games.
Oh, yeah.
One of them that came with the computer was Madden 2001.
Nice, epic. I love Madden.
As a result, I would pop in the game sometimes and start playing the game, and all of a sudden I'd go, here's Cordell Stewart back to throw, and he finds Plaxico Burress down the sideline. And I'm like, this sounds like something I'd want to do, especially now that I'm young getting reps, not realizing it, just thinking I'm having fun here. And to get to your question, from that point on, when I was about 8 years old, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I locked in on that. High school rolls around, whatever. I'm a freshman, not really thinking about where I'm going to go just yet. I have a couple of years to think about it. But one day I was taking an AP computer science class. And one day this person who's like a Full Sail Labs person comes in. Mind you, I had taken a tour of the campus and I knew of them from being around here. I took a tour of the campus the year before. I asked them if they had anything TV, broadcast, media related at the time. They were like, we're sorry, this isn't the school for that. I'm like, damn, Syracuse Northwestern, here we come.
Ugh.
In the back of my mind. But then we had this person come to class this day, and she's talking about hats or something. And at the end of class, somebody goes, so what else do you offer? And they're like, oh, game design, whatever.
Yeah.
And just as I was about to leave the room, she goes, oh, and by the way, we're about to open the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. I was a little louder than that when I said it. I lost it. And I'm like, it's right here in my backyard from where I've grown up, and it's Dan Patrick, whom I listened to all the time growing up. How can I say no to this?
Yeah, the way I got into the school was I was scrolling through Instagram.
The algorithm.
The algorithm. I'm looking at some Falcon stuff and just so happened to see Full Sail. So when I first came here, I was going to do game design because I love maps. So I was going to make video games. But then I saw the picture of Dan Patrick when I came down here. Well, not down here, when I was on the phone. No, I couldn't see the picture on the phone. They explained it to me when I was on the phone. Like, no, they also had that program, and I swapped up, did the Dan Patrick, and hey, that's a good way of how we met. So let's get into how we met. We was in the legendary class that's still on that picture is still on your Instagram.
Not anymore. That's my Debbie. Oh wait. Oh,
no,
you mean the group photo?
Yep, the group photo, and we all in the group photo. So I'll be sure to put that in the B-roll somewhere when I'm in this podcast.
I finally posted that nearly a year later, but that's neither here nor there.
Not here nor there at all. But my first impression when I met you in the class, I remember when
before we get to the part you're gonna get to.
Okay, like my first impression of you was, he really want to, come to Dan Patrick and do sportscasting, or what exactly would you do actually in the field? Like, what exactly would you do? Because I knew you had some intelligence with you, but, with cerebral palsy and all that, like, what exactly, what I'm saying, where would you do? How would you, knowing you have cerebral palsy, how are you going to overcome that in this field of sportscasting when we know we have to move around a lot? That's my honest assessment when I first seen you and all that. But
I've heard worse.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not worse. But what did impress me with you when we was in class is that we had an exercise.
The exercise.
And we had to name play-by-play.
There was just sportscasters in general.
Sportscasters in general, and it was pictures on the wall. I mean, we had. You want to name? Do you remember them?
I remember most.
Name the ones that you remember.
No, here's what I remember first of all. I was like, oh shit, sort of thing. So he puts the first slide up, and there are these two black and white photos.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know who these guys are. I mean, so you know what? Let's just see how everybody else does. And we're sitting there, 15, 20, 30 seconds go by. Nobody says anything.
Facts.
Then I remember I quietly go something like, is that Mel Allen and Red Barber? And Ruddy couldn't hear who exactly it came from.
Right.
And he goes, wait, who said that? You were the first person to ever get those. And then we go off the list. What? Gee. Al Michaels was there.
You remember a couple of them?
I didn't know him at the time.
Yeah.
He was the only one answering.
Yeah.
Goldman was there. Marv Albert was there.
Was Vin Scully there?
Vin Scully, of course, was there. Brent Musburger, Keith Jackson. There was probably about 15 to 20. And what I do also remember is that sideline reporter Leslie Visser was there, and he
Still don't remember this.
I answered this, and it's like, oh, it's Leslie Visser, and he goes, okay, let's change the game. Who is this sportscaster married to? Oh, it's Dick Stockton of CBS and Fox. He goes, I work with Dan Hicks at golf. Who is he married to? Anna Storm.
Bro, for everybody who's listening to this answer, I'm telling you, my eyes was the same exact way, in shock. Only one I knew was Vin Scully. I knew Al Michaels, Vin Scully, but you was in your bag for that is that exercise. But let's get into the actual play-by-play. Well, not play-by-play, like the intro, like the finals when we had to do our first highlight.
Yes.
So, how did you feel that morning, waking up knowing that you about to be your first, about to call your first highlight?
So what's crazy was I woke up that morning and I was recovering from the flu the previous week. So I wake up and I was getting better, but I had this swollen gland underneath my neck here and it was bothering me so much that morning. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. So I go to the doctor. They prescribed me an antibiotic. I'm like, okay, let's go. Take the antibiotic. I didn't have breakfast that morning till like 10:30.
What was for breakfast?
Got a toast and strawberries.
It's a year ago, like yeah.
Strawberries, probably a protein drink in there too. But fairly late, and then I about to leave the table and get at least put on some dress pants or whatever. Check my phone, and Ruddy is calling me, and he goes, yeah, because remember the night before, Gordy gets him tickets to go to the Tampa Bay Lightning Stanley Cup final game.
Sure did. Yep.
So I answer the phone, and he goes, I missed the call, and he goes, I call him back, and I'm like, buddy, what's up? And he's like, I'm having something with my kids. We won't be in until 3:30 as opposed to 1. Great. Part of me initially thought when he said we're delaying class, I'm like, oh, this dude's hungover. So don't let Ruddy hear that.
No, we won't let him hear that. At all. We won't let him hear that at all. But when you actually get...
But once we got there and stuff?
Yeah. But when you actually get to the chair and, like, you're actually about to start, like, actually calling your highlight, how was it feeling of actually calling the highlight?
I was up till about 10 o'clock the previous night preparing and stuff. So I thought I felt pretty confident. So I get inside, go down the hall and stuff, and I'm like... oh man, this is really happening. And it just starts to get real fast. I was maybe like the second to last person, if I remember correctly, to go, because I think Chris was the only one to go after me. Yeah. I thought most of you guys were better than what I thought I could do. So I'm like, okay, well, here goes nothing. Just tried to relax and stay calm, and then we just go. And I know you talked about it with Chris in your interview with him. When we did that first highlight, we all ignored the shot sheet.
Yeah. What shot sheet? Yeah. What is it? Okay, for everybody who don't know, what is a shot sheet?
So the shot sheet, first you cut the highlight and you have it down to your, in our case, minute and a half. And a shot sheet is essentially the list of shots within that highlight. For example, if I had a shot of, I don't know, did the highlight of the Bucks-Nets game 7 in 2021. So say I had the shot of Kevin Durant hitting that ball away, turnaround, top of the key.
Should have been a 3.
If his shoe was a half size smaller, it would have been. I believe I actually worked that into my highlight too, and I would have had that listed there. Kevin Durant, turnaround, fall away, top of the key, and may have written down some additional stats or a nugget in there that I would have wanted to remember to use, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it actually does. I think I called Clemson and LSU, and AJ Terrell went for he learned a couple lessons that game. But yeah, how about them Tigers? Let's get on further along into the program. So what has been a class for you that gave you damn, I'm really glad I got that class?
You know, that's a tough question because I feel like I said that after Ruddy's class.
He about to say what we all say.
I said that after Sitton's class.
Yep.
I said that after Mac's class. Lee class. I said that after Debbie's class. And I said that after Christine's class.
So if I had to make you choose one, if I had to make you just choose one of them that you felt like, I know I'm putting you on the spot with that one, but you felt like, damn, like I needed that one the most.
I needed it the most.
All those teachers you named.
As a guy who wants to be on camera, and particularly in the play-by-play realm, I know this is cheating a little bit. Any of the vocal training classes, whether it be Mac, McDonald, Debbie Taylor, Christine Wynn.
Shout out to Debbie and Mac, by the way.
Because I went back and watched some of my old stuff before their classes. Here's Durant, turn fall away for the lead, and it is good. Like that's not good.
Sagging off on the end. Yeah, you got to end on the up.
That's terrible. Now, and I wasn't projecting back then either. Now it's almost like I kind of have to yell, but not quite. It's that weird middle ground. You can attest to that, I'm sure. And I mean, those classes are helpful too in the sense that I didn't think I was the most talented guy here, and I still don't think that in terms of my vocals, especially. I mean, there are some people who come through these doors that I think just have an excellent voice and perhaps just might be a little unpolished. You're, I think, a very good example of that. Some richness that a lot of people would kill to have.
I appreciate that, bro.
But I think to be able to learn to enhance what I have and make it a little more TV suitable is something that I am definitely going to need to rely on.
But what I want to say is that I think you're kind of selling yourself short a little bit on how your voice is and how you deliver too, because everybody has their own way of how they do it. I may have I don't know. I think my voice is a little nasally a little bit sometimes. And when I get really excited, I be like, what? Like, I get excited myself too. But what I want to get into now is you're an athlete. I know you was in a competition in the Olympics. So let's talk about it. How did you get into that?
So, for many years when I was growing up as part of a form of physical therapy, in order to build up, my core, my back, things of that nature, I would do horseback riding.
When was the first time you did it?
I think I was 3 or 4.
Shit, I was not going nowhere fucking close to a horse at 3 or 4.
I didn't have a choice.
Oh, fair. Okay, fair.
No, I didn't. Even if I did, my dad made that choice for me, but it did do wonders for my posture and stuff. I mean, as you can see on camera, it's still not perfect, but it's much better than what it was. So I did that for many years, and at about 2017, I was offered to compete in the Special Olympics, and I know it exists, and I don't like it, but the stigma around it, I can kind of see why that is, but it shouldn't be a blanketed thing.
Not at all.
Thrown to everybody, but so I, as a guy who's naturally competitive and, as I mentioned before, huge into sports, why not? Let's go ahead and do it. And won a couple of local and state events.
I want the names of them. What did you kick ass in?
Well, there were 2 events that I competed in. One was called equitation and one was called trail.
Can you explain them to me?
So equitation is essentially follow basic commands, reverse the horse, turn it around, trot on the horse. And trail is like there's this course that we have to go through. Weave some poles, go over the bridge.
You gotta weave and like go under stuff and over stuff?
Not under and over, not that extreme.
Okay, I'm about to say, holy shit. And you got 2 gold. How many gold medals did you get?
I've got 1 on the national level, which I did last summer, and that was my de facto retirement from that.
What the hell? Why are you retiring when you got a gold medal? You want to end up like Peyton Manning or something?
I got a media career to follow.
Oh, fair. Okay. So what if they call you back, like, what I'm saying, a couple years later, like, Karlos, we need you to come through and spank everybody again. You gonna go back?
Sorry.
Oh, hey, you heard it here first on Snoody Podcast. Just media man Karlos right here. So mentioning that, let's get into play-by-play, because I know you love the play-by-play.
Love would be an understatement.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So who is a play-by-play caller that you kind of like look up to, or you can name multiple of them? It ain't got to be one specific.
Oh boy, let's see. This is going to be. We'll be here a while. Then no, I'm kidding. Let's see. Depends on really on the sport. I mean, started with football. Consider myself a real football history junkie. So as a result, I've watched a lot of old football, and I've grown a liking to some older names. First off, namely Pat Summerall and Dick Enberg. I'm not sure if you can recall back to their times. Summerall retired around 2002.
I should know them by name. I should.
Enberg retired around 2010.
I went to the Army that year. My excuse was I was in basic training.
Fair. They were good. Huge fan of Al Michaels.
Yeah.
Currently, Nance is cool. I like him. Other sports, though, basketball in particular, which is what I've done a lot of my work in to this point. See, being a Knicks fan, we were spoiled in the sense that, yes, this team was absolute garbage, but every night...
Spoiled? You mean spoiled like they're like corroding, like they're old, right?
What I'm saying is, every night, we have the great pleasure of listening to the great Mike Breen and Clyde Frazier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And prior to Breen being there, it was Marv Albert for 30 years.
Damn. Yeah, and I was thinking of the team aspect. I wasn't even thinking of play-by-play. That was on me.
This team was garbage. They're always fun and entertaining to listen to. They could be losing by 40. And I mean, if you look at the Mets in baseball, they're spoiled in the sense that they have arguably the greatest trio of our generation in the booth, in Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, and Ron Darling. They are a fun listen if you ever get to listen to them. If you ever decide to put yourself to the hell of listening to a Mets game.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Sean, and how y'all getting beat too. Mr. Stanton, I remember last year you gave me a lot of flack, Now it's my turn. How you doing, sir? Shout out to the Mets. Yeah, but what did you learn the most from your favorite play-by-play caller? What attributes did you take from them, and how you do it?
I think mostly is just finding a feel for each respective sport. Basketball, I learned pretty quickly once I called a game. Slow down. The game might be moving fast, but the fans at home can see what you're seeing. So you don't need to describe. Drives down the lane, kicks it out, swings it back out again, driving baseline once more. Instead, drives the lane. Or you don't need to just go off names. Johnson, 3, good. Just keep it as minimalistic as possible.
Okay, so let me get a pen and paper right quick in case I might have to steal a couple things from this next question. So do you have any like phrases that you have that, you know what I'm saying, any phrases you have specifically that you made up, like saying like a Shazam or bada bing, or like I probably say like he doing the most, something like that. Do you have like a phrase you say so I can jot it down right quick?
To a degree, I find that stuff a little bit corny. However, I did feel like I relied on got it a lot for basketball last year. I want to stray away from that a little bit, but I still want to use it in a way where it's not only saved for the big moments, but rather sprinkle it in throughout the game. But as each bucket gets more important, utilize those vocal techniques we were taught and maybe add a little bit more inflection to it or whatever to make it sound bigger. I did think of an and one call that I used. I would say, got it, pause for about a second or so, and then go count it. However, one of my more embarrassing moments came from that.
Stole my next question. Let's go.
I have a couple embarrassing moments, and I can supply them to you if you want.
I'm ready to supply it, man.
My biggest embarrassment, I would say, in basketball was the final game of the season. I called 6 women's basketball games for our local D2 school, Rollins College.
Shout out to Rollins, man.
Yep. I know you once said they're like your second college, and that would be a correct statement.
Yeah.
Especially for a guy that's called 15 games here and myself. But it was our last women's game of the season, and the team wasn't very good, but they were playing well here down the stretch of the season, getting some wins late. And they're in a tight game against Palm Beach Atlantic University. It's about a 5-point game with 4 minutes to go. The center gets a nice feed inside. She catches the ball. Looked like she got bumped. The defender tried to sell it as an offensive foul in my mind. She goes up, puts it in the foul, and I go, got it, count it. Crowd going crazy, but then you just see the ref point the other way, and then the fans just go, oh, and I'm like, I did not just call an offensive foul and made basket.
Oh, snap.
I hadn't made that mistake all year because usually my eyes would dart directly to the ref.
Right.
And I got carried away in the moment and just blew it. I could not sleep for like 3 days after that.
Oh, man, everybody make mistakes, though, bro. Everybody make mistakes.
We're all harsher on ourselves.
Oh, you are right about that. I do kill myself privately, too, when I be messing up all the time.
Sure, you found out through the interviews that with Adams and the package on Tate, this Rollins College baseball team is pretty good.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Kind of decent, you know?
Yeah, kind of really fucking good.
Yeah. And they got to host their first home playoff game in 19 years. And it's about a minute or so after that game ended against Tampa, when they punched their ticket to be able to host these games, I emailed Gus, our program director.
Shout out to Gus, man.
And I was like, I had to ask him for something else. On the end, I was like, oh, by the way, are we going to be able to call these games? And he's like, we should be able to, or whatever. I'm like, that's fantastic. And I just end the email with, if need be, I'm available. A couple days later, I want some combination of the four of us, to be working those games. Clayton Wallner, Max Gershon, and Brandon Ferguson, the others. He goes, I want some combination of you guys to call the games. So I'm like, oh shit, this is real. Like, I'm actually going to be doing something big now. And luckily it was the last week of vocal training too, which, as I'm sure you remember, was a fairly light week in terms of workload.
Yeah.
Which was great in the sense that I can devote the vast majority of my attention to this game. A couple of nights spent preparing up till 1, 2-ish, going to practices, sending messages. It was a fun week, a hectic week, but I never felt more prepared for a game. We get to the game, then you see, first we get there, and then there's like this gate, and they're actually charging for admission.
Yeah, man. I had to pay to go to this game.
I get in because I have my ID. By the way, my brother was there at the game, and he said there was a guy behind him in line with an orange lanyard and wearing an Atlanta Braves hat.
I wonder who that could be. I wonder who was that guy.
I don't know.
Yeah, with the Stud City. I think he had a Stud City. Who is that? He had a Stud City shirt on too. That guy, man. Yeah.
Damn. Anyways, I digress there. Fans start filing in, and by the time we do our open, this place is rocking. I'm like, here goes nothing. Game going fairly smoothly. Gus is texting us during the game too, so it's like he's nitpicking and.
Can you disclose a couple? What he said in the text message? Anything he said?
He said at a certain juncture of the game, he felt like when it was my time to do color, I was stepping over a little bit. Also, there was a home run robbery in left field by the left fielder Ryan Coleman, and we weren't descriptive enough on it. I mean, we didn't realize it. Game's rolling on. It's a fairly tight game, but it was like the third inning, and the center fielder Cam Meehan just smokes this ball into right center. The right fielder for Barry University, who they were playing that evening, comes tracking it down, tries to slide and make a catch, and it pops out of his glove. So I'm first calling it out, and I'm like, oh, wait, it popped free. Nothing wrong there. Here comes Meehan. He's rounding second, getting to third. Throw just making it to the infield. They're sending him home, and I'm just calling this. And the throw to the plate is not in time. He gets in. And I said the throw is not in time. However, when we're in vocal training too, we're taught the roller coaster method. And that's to like crescendo things up, slowly build. I wanted to hit my high on time as everything's slowly unfolding. I remember this was all happening in slow motion. However, I didn't realize how high up on the roller coaster I already was. I'm pretty sure you could tell how this ends.
I already know.
Roll the tape.
I remember. I'm trying to think of when I called the game with Cole.
Yes, when you filled in.
Yeah, when I filled in and called the game with Cole, and they hit a walk off, and I was supposed to. I was play-by-play calling, and they hit the walk off, and I was ready to, pop my stuff a little bit, but I didn't get a chance to do it because my thunder was taken from my color commentator. He called it for me. Yeah, I don't know. That just popped out of my mind. It makes me cry a little bit sometimes because I don't know if I'm ever going, call a walk-off, like a real walk-off game. Yeah. You say you had to finish your story?
No, I was done.
Oh, okay. Okay. What I want to get into next with Mr. Karlos, let's go back to Full Sail. And I know we're close to graduating. I know you have maybe we have 6-7 more months.
My last class is April of 24.
Okay, April of 24. I
walk in May.
Okay, so you walk in May. While my food is dropping, by the way. I just had to make that rhyme right quick. So when you graduate from Full Sail University, I know this is an on-the-spot type of question, but what sport exactly would you want to play-by-play call for?
The dream is basketball. And why? I mean, tough question in the sense that there are a lot more opportunities in basketball than there are in football. And football, I would say, is my favorite, then followed by basketball. Baseball isn't something I didn't think I'd enjoy all that much, but I was, willing to give it a try, and it was fun, so I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind baseball, but basketball is the number one. Just thinking about it, being able to, I watch basketball all the time during the season. It's pretty much on my TV every night of the season, especially as a Knicks fan. Like I said, listening to Mike and Clyde, and finally hearing him have some sort of jubilation in the Knicks job a couple of years ago when we were on the come up and had that excellent season that was derailed. But over the last 3 years, because I used to watch the Knicks regularly when I was a kid, but then, they were terrible, so I'd watch them on occasion. Didn't mean I wasn't a fan, I just didn't have the time or energy to deal with them on a nightly basis. But now once I'm maturing in the field here a little bit and watching them every night, it's been something I've taken a lot from in terms of some of the things I could use, what works stylistically. But yeah, I think it's because there are a lot more opportunities there in basketball that's really drawn me to it. Not to mention I thought I was decent at it. Yes.
Nah, but let's stay with basketball right quick. Feel free to troll me back on these next questions. Let's talk about a series that happened a couple of years ago. Normally I wear his jersey. I got the child's large size because it's cheaper. It is. So I got my Trey. Who cares? It's the facts. Like I get joked on in my DMs though, but ain't nobody say nothing in my comments, so they might do now. But it was a series between Trae Young and the Knicks, and it was very happily for me. What do you think was the biggest issue with that series with the Knicks?
No playmakers aside from Julius Randle. And once they started double and triple teaming him, it was game over. It's hard to win games when your next best shooters are Reggie Bullock and Elfrid Payton.
It is very true. So how do you think overall, do you think Trae Young is an overrated player, or how do you feel on the Trae Young spectrum of his play?
Depends on what the discourse is at the time.
Okay.
Because there are, as you know, there are some times where it feels like Trae Young is getting talked about a lot, perhaps more than he should. Right now, I feel like the discourse has him been slightly underrated, I would say. Yeah, he doesn't play it like a defense, but what he can do on offense, I think, we've seen what it's done with a otherwise lackluster Hawks roster. Been middle of the pack to completely out of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Finals.
So how do you feel about your head coach of the New York Knicks?
Sometimes Tom Thibodeau will drive me insane. However, I think big picture, he's done something that hasn't really been done since Riley and Van Gundy. So I think he deserves a lot of flowers for actually instilling a culture and one on defense, especially if you look back at those mellow years, sometimes you'd have to win a game by shooting 60% because
All the time y'all checking somebody is on the chessboard, y'all hitting the thing and saying check, because y'all wasn't doing no defense.
that season 2 years ago, they were the second best, or they were the most efficient defense in terms of those advanced metrics, second best scoring defense in the league. The year after that, they took a step back because of the additions of Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier, namely. Also injuries to Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel. But then this past year, when the rotation was a little too, large at the beginning of the season, they were terrible defensively. Then they shortened it after that bad loss to Dallas in December. I mean, Deuce McBride and Josh Hart aren't necessarily the most flashy players offensively, but they will do exactly what you need them to on defense. They will dive for loose balls. It's exactly what the fans want to see, really, in terms of doing everything it takes to win a game.
Other than just me being like a Knicks hater because I'm a Trae Young fan, but I was really impressed when you guys beat Cleveland in the first round. Because that too. But honestly, a lot of people thought Cleveland was gonna win that series. I know you thought this. I know you thought this.
The season series 3-1.
That's true, but I just thought Cleveland was like a 4th seed that year. Donovan Mitchell, Garland, Mobley brothers. I just thought they had it. But nah, y'all killed them in the paint. Like y'all was killing them. I thought Mobley was gonna go crazy, but nah. What do you think was the biggest factor of you guys winning that series?
The bigs, I would say Julius Randle, even in the limited time he played due to the injuries, and Mitchell Robinson especially. What they were able to do, Isaiah Hartenstein too off the bench, was Cleveland's bigs and Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley are more finesse guys. They're not willing to, necessarily go pound for pound with some of these guys. They'd rather stand around and pull up. Mitchell Robinson and all those guys in New York they didn't care for any of that. They will out-physical those little twigs that consist of the Cleveland front court. And it was just a beautiful sight to see, not to mention Josh Hart and his rebounding prowess. If I think back to that series, there are 3 or 4 different offensive rebounds he had in the fourth quarters of games that really extended possessions that either gave the Knicks the lead in a couple of cases or another allowed them to put the game away. Never in my life have I said I am more optimistic for the Knicks than I am for the Steelers and Yankees.
I want to give you some flowers of yourself. As far as I've seen you and what I've known of you, you never ask for too much help on anything. You always do the tasks that you need to do. If I need help with anything, I know I can call or send a text and you'll be able to give me some insight, which I'm going to start doing more of. And the main thing I was impressed of you about is just the bag in your brain to be able to tell anything at any given time about something that happened.
For better or for worse, really?
Yeah.
I remember too much.
Yeah, you are the memory bank, seriously. And I just want to say that I'm very impressed and proud of you doing what you're doing so far and taking the leap of going into a field like this, which leads me to my last question.
Now, with cerebral palsy, I know it's a couple of, it's not the same as it's a couple kind of a little difficult for you to do things as smile like us. What would you tell another kid with CP what they can do in this life? What would you tell another kid with CP who want to follow their dreams?
This is going to sound corny. It's going to sound cliche, but it is absolutely and 100% true. And that's just, nothing is too crazy. I mean, people looked at me side-eyed when I said I wanted a media career, especially with, like what you said earlier, a lot of walking, moving around and all that. If you're going to make it this far, you've made it far enough to where you know how to be adaptable and how to adjust to particular situations. So it's not any different than anything you've overcome thus far. Nothing's too insane. I mean, for all I care, you could be the next president. And that's really what I want to do with this platform that I hope to get one day. Serve as that sort of beacon.
I'm really glad you came to my platform, spoke a little bit. I know it's getting hot out here. You're sweating. I'm sweating too, but it's been Karlos.
Yep.
We're riding on Snoody podcast. And you have any shout-outs? Probably shout it out. Any shout-outs?
I mean, shout out to all the people we've mentioned in this podcast, because a lot of these people have been real influential in getting me here. I know I even mentioned my family, doctors, all of them. They've propelled me up. Like we've said before, all the faculty here, all the connections that I've made from students and others around here. I mean, you guys make me better, and I hope you can say the same about me.
Oh, for sure, man. And shout out to them Braves beating them Yankees tonight, too.
Yeah, book a sweep.
But this has been Snoody, a.k.a. Rodney, with Karlos Mancilla. And it's been great. It's a pleasure. And we out this thing, man.